Toxic Avenger is a 2023 American film written and directed by Macon, Blair, and stars Peter Dinklage, Jacob Tremblay, Elijah Wood, and Kevin Bacon. The plot follows a janitor named Winston who rises up after an accident involving, toxic chemicals, of course, to become the hero of the people, and more importantly, to his stepson. And here we are, the long-awaited Toxic Avenger reimagining. That's what I'm going to call it. And I say reimagining because this really is not a remake or a reboot. The film had been in the works since like at least 2010. I don't really remember, hearing about it back then, but maybe 2015. I started to hear stuff. It was finished in 2021, so it took almost 4 goddamn years to, for this thing to come out because apparently it was too controversial, and securing a distributor was tough. Which really shocks me considering the high level actors involved. Whatever. It finally came out, and it's an unrated cut, I guess, thanks to Cineverse, distributors of stuff like Terrifier 3, some other things. Oh yeah, and the upcoming Silent Night, Deadly Night remake. I'll call it a remake for now because I assume that's what it is. So I'm a pretty big Toxie fan, I would say overall. I love the first film. I haven't seen, to be honest, I haven't seen the sequels in so goddamn long. I can't really remember my exact feelings on them, but the first one is one is the one that I revisit frequently, and I guess I should revisit those sequels. I've heard they don't hold up very well, but I think the first one does, and it's in its own right. But we'll get to that. I even watched the the cartoon back in the day, which I still to this day cannot fucking believe happened. So for the last, few years or whatever, I've been super curious as to what a Toxic Avenger remake or reboot or whatever might be like. Obviously trying to make a film as crude and as offensive as the 1984 original now in 2025 would be just absolute career suicide. The Troma fans would love it, but the public backlash, man, it would just be too much and just not even worth the risk. And obviously, any Toxie movie would have to be pushing the boundaries. It's just that the boundaries are different now than they were in 1984, as they should be. I don't need to really further explain that. You know what I mean. So I'll just cut to the chase for now, just a little bit. This script is nowhere near as shocking and offensive as the original film, which is kind of what I expected, to be honest. And I would imagine that the longtime Troma fans' opinions, I would imagine, are pretty mixed. I haven't really looked into it too much so far. So far what little I've seen has been pretty positive. But I do have to admit, and it's hard to really explain, I think, but part of the charm of the original is the fact that there was no holding back, no compromise, and we do need people on occasion to test the limits of what is tasteful and what isn't. The majority of the controversy in this film comes from the violence, which I'm happy to say that there is plenty of, and it is very splattery. Although nothing that you haven't really seen before in like the Boys TV show or the Terrifier films. There's a lot of really good practical gore, but I gotta say there was also some CGI blood and some other effects, and honestly, at times it was just a little bit too much for me personally. Really, to me, my opinion, a good Toxie movie has to be all practical effects. There can't be any CGI, or if any at all, very fucking little. It's kind of a minor complaint, to be honest. It didn't really ruin anything for me, but it's a complaint nonetheless. So back to me calling this a reimagining and not a remake. I guess you could also sort of call it a reboot as well. So Peter Dinklage plays Winston, not Melvin, and he is still a janitor, which is cool because Toxie is our working class hero, and he takes care of his stepson Wade, played by Jacob Tremblay, after losing his mom, and this was a really really cool touch, believe it or not. And with a seasoned actor like Peter Dinklage, it totally worked. We've all seen a million stories about a parent determined to earn the respect of a child and stuff, but let's give all the step parents a little love too. So obviously this is the most heartfelt Toxie movie by far, I think, and I really didn't expect it. I feel weird saying this, but I almost liked the first act the most. You know, when Winston was just a downtrodden dude, you know, trying to catch a break. And that's not at all the trash on the rest of this movie. I just really, really enjoyed the setup, and I certainly, again, I just didn't see it coming. Then we have, you know, the villains, because it's the Toxic Avenger after all. He needs villains. You get some, you know, some random bad guys that all Toxie movies have, of course. You know, low-level gangsters and just thugs and stuff like that. And then you also have the main villains played by Kevin Bacon and Elijah Wood. Kevin Bacon plays the corrupt CEO of the company that Winston works for, and he is, as you would imagine, perfect for this type of, you know, slimy shithead. And in 2025, I appreciate anyone portraying, you know, CEOs as they really fucking are. So there's a scene where where Winston finds out that he's sick. This is the one of my like 2 or 3 favorite scenes in the whole movie, and his insurance won't cover the medical costs, so he approaches Kevin Bacon in person, who doesn't help at all, and he even ends up mocking Winston. I mean, the way Kevin Bacon can play, you know, sleazy characters worked perfect here in the Troma universe. I mean, if you saw Super or Maxine recently, or a number of other films, you'll get a bit of that here too. Elijah Wood plays like a comically freakish side villain type guy with a sort of interesting character arc. Like he looks a lot like Penguin from Batman Returns, you know, Danny DeVito's character. Most of the other smaller villains I hardly remember, and some of them could have been a little bit better, a little bit more memorable, obviously. I don't remember a lot of them. But I think the most important question here, of course, is how was Toxie pulled off? You know, like as a character, I'm kind of torn, to be honest. Peter Dinklage played Winston just so well that I missed him once he became Toxie. So I don't really know how to feel about that. I don't exactly love the way that the Toxie looks either. Like, he looks okay. I don't hate it either. He looks like maybe a little bit too cartoonish or something like that. But it's actually a small complaint for me, especially since the movie overall is strong enough to balance out its flaws. The fight scenes are fun and gory, but overall not as over the top or as memorable as the original film. Although there were some fun callbacks, you know, like brutal fast food restaurant battles. Now, another thing that I noticed was it did seem a little bit like Macon Blair was a little bit hesitant, you know, with the script. Like at times he wants to offend us all, you know, like the original film did, because he's a fan of this stuff. But he pulls back, and he holds back a little bit too much, I think. This is kind of what I expected, but I don't necessarily, you know, mean that in a bad way either. But at times it did, for me, kind of feel like things were missing. And there were a few times where he wrote in some like current, you know, edgy topics. Sometimes it sort of worked, but sometimes it didn't at all. So I'm giving the Toxic Avenger 2023 a 7 out of 10. It's a fun, violent, competently made film. But there was a bit too much CGI blood and gore effects, and overall I thought it could have been just a little edgier. That said, you know, I still want sequels. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex.